What is up, everyone? From the ashes from 2014, the two Spot Monkeys are back with our first ever potentially video, if you're watching this on video, or maybe you're listening to it on audio. I am Jim. This is Tom Bobo. Two Spot Monkeys. We started that thing back in 2011, and our last post, Tom, I don't know if you know this, was 2014.
That's surprising and also not surprising. When you said that date, I was like, wow, has it been that long?
Been 6 years since we did anything. And to be perfectly honest and upfront with everybody, we don't know how long this will last. This might be our only one. Who knows? Or we might do a few more of these. But since we're in the world of COVID and everybody's stuck at home, we thought, well, what the heck? Let's give ourselves a little break today and talk about what's coming up on Sunday with Money in the Bank. Comes up on Sunday night on the WWE Network. We should probably get sponsored if we're going to plug them that much, Tom. But so we just thought we'd give it a shot. We're going to be rusty at this. We haven't done a podcast, and we've never done a video cast, but we haven't done a podcast in 6 years. I didn't look back. I bet it was an interview with somebody, or maybe we did a WrestleMania preview. I know it was right after WrestleMania in 2014. We said we were going on hiatus, which I guess 6 years later, the end of hiatus. So, but we wanted to go through the matches, kind of talk through storylines, see what we think is coming up. I can't talk. And we're recording this live, so we can't even go back and fix it. But see what's going on in the stories. So we're going to just jump right into this, Tom, unless you've got any opening thoughts you want to share.
Yeah, no opening thoughts. Just hope everyone's well and healthy and happy, and appreciate the opportunity just to see you, Jim, and chat about wrestling for a little bit here. And WWE has gotten a lot of my attention, being in Michigan and being staying home, safe at home. So looking forward to talking about this. And I feel a lot different about an upcoming pay-per-view this weekend versus how I felt a month ago when it was WrestleMania time. So I'm sure we'll talk more about that.
Absolutely. And I echo, I hope everybody's staying safe. And hopefully if we can give you a little bit of time just to turn your brain off and think about something as ridiculous as what the WWE is putting forth this Sunday, that might give you a clue into what I think of some things. Hopefully we can do that. And absolutely, Tom, good to be together with you. God, we haven't been together since Dallas WrestleMania.
4 years ago.
Last time. And that was probably the last time, honestly, we talked face to face, like even like this. We talk through Messenger a lot and stay in touch, but 4 years ago. So the Spot Monkeys have been together. We just haven't recorded anything until now. All right, well, we're going to start off, Tom, with if it'll come up, there it is, the SmackDown Tag Team title match. It's a fatal four-way. Of course, we've got the New Day of Big E and Kofi Kingston, the fairly new tag champs after winning them in a three-way singles match, which we can get into that in a minute if we want. A couple of weeks back on SmackDown against the Forgotten Sons, the new team, not new to WWE, but new to SmackDown, with Steve Cutler and Wesley Blake. Lucha House Party will be Gran Metalik and Lince Dorado, since Kalisto is still out with injury. And, of course, the former champs, The Miz and John Morrison, who are the only ones, I don't know, should they be, what is their song title? Hey Ho, whatever in the world that thing is. They don't have a team name. That was my point to this.
The hey and the ho-hos.
Hey and the ho-hos, exactly. Snack cakes, going to happen. So maybe we should start with that. I kind of alluded to it with the New Day, Tom, but what was your thought? So at WrestleMania, there was a three-way ladder match. The Miz apparently was sick, or that's the rumor that was out there, so he wasn't able to be in the match. So they made it the three-way with Kofi, John Morrison, and Jey Uso, I think, if I remember right. Could have been Jimmy. I don't remember. Do you remember which Uso it was at Mania?
I don't know.
Okay. And it's not going to matter because they're injured anyways and going to be out for the next 6 to 9 months. Jimmy's got a knee injury, I think, now. But Morrison won that match at Mania to retain the titles, and then they ran back a three-way just singles match, no ladder, with Big E, whichever Uso the other Uso was. Sorry to the Usos if you're watching this. I don't expect that you are. And The Miz a couple of weeks back on SmackDown, and Big E winning the title there. Tom, what did you think of the tag titles being defended in a three-way singles match?
At Mania or after Mania, or both?
Either way, I guess. Either way.
I would have much preferred to have it be the traditional tag teams at WrestleMania. Obviously, I'm not going to begrudge any performer who didn't or couldn't be there to film what they filmed in that time. And maybe for continuity, like just having all parts involved, that's why they waited and did the match after Mania and had the titles change then. I don't know. I didn't like it very much in terms of like, I'm not a fan of having tag team titles switch in singles matches or three-way matches. So I guess, from the I like wrestling to be kind of somewhat consistent in what they do. And that was obviously a departure from that.
Yeah, and I felt the same way. I agree with you on the WrestleMania thing. Hey, if there was a health situation, totally understandable. They didn't want to cancel the match. I get it. A ladder match in an empty arena was interesting because some of what I think makes the ladder matches so entertaining and interesting is when you have those big spots, the crowd reaction, the pop that comes with it. And you had the big spots, but it was really quiet other than the sound of bodies hitting ladders and things. So that was a little bit different, but I'm with you. I guess they felt the need that everybody needed to get to work or something. But losing it in the singles, it kind of made me think back to, and I may have my people a little bit mixed up, but I think in WCW they had a thing where Sting and Kevin Nash were the tag champs. It was in the NWO days, and they were they had a falling out, so then they had a singles match to determine who was going to be the tag champs and get to pick their new partner. And I didn't love it then, and I didn't love it now. So
was Vince Russo booking?
Probably, probably the Russo time. And sometimes I wonder if he's secretly on the payroll now in WWE. But the Firefly Funhouse match was definitely booked by somebody who was high on life. At least I loved it, but it was something to behold. But anyways, that's a WrestleMania thing. We can maybe talk about that when we get to Bray later. But so Tom, what are you thinking with this match? What has struck you as they've set this up?
Yeah, so obviously, thinking back on the last couple of SmackDowns, the setup, I think, if I'm not mistaken, there was all four teams were in the ring. There was kind of a brawl. Lucha House Party beat Miz and Morrison later that evening, and then Forgotten Sons beat New Day last Friday. So obviously it makes sense. Obviously, it looks like the champions or the former champions seem to be weakened. Weakened might not be the right term, but obviously maybe more vulnerable. I'm not against New Day having the titles and being consistent. Side note, I would love for Big E to have gotten or to get at some point a singles push. I don't know that the New Day will ever go away, and I don't know that it needs to, but much in the same way that Kofi had his opportunity, I think Big E could do something similar in the singles realm. But where and how, and if that's on SmackDown, and again, there's a lot of like what ifs that have to, I think, happen before that comes out. I will say this: I do think since the post WrestleMania kind of like show ups that happened, like on Raw and SmackDown, were muted for a little bit this year because of the circumstances. I mean, the Forgotten Sons were enjoyable on NXT, and actually, I do like them more and more towards the end of their run. There and then it's been kind of quiet for a while before they showed up on SmackDown. But in terms of this match, I don't think we're going to see a title change. I don't know, actually, unless we have a Money in the Bank cash in. I don't think that any titles are going to change in WWE like at this pay-per-view. Maybe, I don't know how long this current thing's going to go on. I think, save for the kind of interim cruiserweight thing that's happening on NXT, I think most champions are going to kind of just stay stable, and they're going to have some probably pretty good feuds. And this one obviously will have legs beyond Sunday, depending on who does what and what happens to whom. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I don't have a problem at all with the New Day being the champs. They're a team that's held it now 8 times, so they're believable as the champs. I think it helps whoever ends up beating them. I hope it's not Miz and Morrison eventually when they lose them. I think it helps them. I think if the Forgotten Sons do eventually become the champs, beating a team like the New Day to do that certainly helps make them in that. I think it's way too soon, though, to put the straps on the Forgotten Sons. They're just building them. They're doing a nice job of building them so far on SmackDown. I feel like they've made them seem important and not as a joke, which sometimes when teams or stars get brought up from NXT, they get kind of, a week or two of a win and then pushed off to the side, and it's like Vince forgets about them or forgets what made them good in NXT. The Forgotten Sons never actually really got a sustained push in NXT. They were featured, but they never, won the championships or anything like that. So, and in some ways, maybe that's going to help them too, in that, I don't know, Vince seems to be kind of in screw it mode right now anyways. At least, I don't know. I couldn't get through the Triple H and Shawn thing the other week. So that kind of solidified what I thought of what they're trying to do booking wise right now. It's kind of all over the place. Like, hey, let's do this. But the Forgotten Sons have been the opposite side of that. I feel like they've done a nice job of building them. Maybe that's Bruce Pritchard. I don't know. Lucha House Party, I think they're there to take the fall, frankly. I like Grand Metalik. I like Lince Dorado. I like that they're actually getting some TV time and it's not just on 205 Live. But I don't see them doing anything other than being the ones that get pinned here. And yeah, Miz and John Morrison, I think they're building towards a breakup there, which probably makes the most sense. Morrison's definitely got legs as a singles competitor. And The Miz should. There's no reason. The Miz is probably the most underutilized talent that company has had in years, I think. Now, granted, he'd probably tell you he's not underutilized because he's got a nice contract. He's on TV just about every week, but that guy could be the top of the card, I think, as a champ. I know he was back, what was that, WrestleMania 27 or something like that. Was that Atlanta or Phoenix?
Atlanta. Yeah, Atlanta.
Okay. Atlanta. I don't know. I think he could be more, and I think eventually they're going to split them up. Maybe that starts to happen again here. I kind of thought the Miz losing the belts would be what would be the catalyst for that. So maybe maybe he gets pinned again. I doubt it. I really do think that's what the house party's there for. But yeah, I think the New Day walks out with the belts here. And in the end, I hope that the Forgotten Sons look strong in this, and maybe that's the feud that moves forward. If they don't keep all four teams together moving forward, because that might be tough to do. Maybe you keep the New Day and the Forgotten Sons paired together here for a little while. Maybe they head towards a SummerSlam match or something. By SummerSlam, I think you could definitely have the Forgotten Sons at a point where I think the belts could be a good fit for them. All right. Anything else on the tag match, Sean?
Just a thought as I'm thinking about the Forgotten Sons, and obviously Jackson Riker is part of that group, but he's obviously not kind of in this match. Do you know about Xavier Woods' status? Like, is he gonna come back anytime soon? Just because when I was thinking of like what's coming after this, I know SummerSlam is down the road, August. I don't know if in Extreme Rules is coming up around the corner or something like that, but like a six man coming out of this with Woods back in the mix if he was, or someone else perhaps, I don't know. But then Jackson Riker. And again, too, you're right. If the Suns don't take the pinfall, which I would agree that they shouldn't, they do want to win over New Day. So it does just naturally lend itself to them continuing to match up.
Yeah, I'm just looking up here. Let's see. He got injured back in October, and he's reported to expect 6 months to a year. So on the front end of that, maybe. That would be a really good surprise that they could pull, since I don't think there's been any real talk of him being ready yet. Doesn't mean it can't be happening behind the scenes either. And yeah, 6-man obviously would make a ton of sense if Xavier's able to come back, or like you said, if they can come up with a honorary third member. I'm trying to think off the top of my head on SmackDown who would fit into that well, or would be fun at least. Otis would be fun, but he's busy with his own things. So. Otis and Big E doing the dance together. I don't know. To me, that would be entertaining for a moment. But yeah, Riker, I certainly expect him to get involved here somehow. And maybe that's, I'm trying to think who could negate Riker's influence. And right now, I mean, both the New Day and Lucha House Party have a third member, but they're both out injured. And the Miz and Morrison, nobody likes them, so I can't see anybody helping them. So unless they bring up somebody, debut somebody else from NXT that would fit into the Miz and Morrison's more world as a bodyguard maybe or something. I don't know. If he wasn't starting to get featured on Raw a little, that might be a Brendan Vink mode, but they seem to be getting a little bit behind him on Raw, so that's another topic maybe for another day too. But all right, well, let's move forward to SmackDown Women's title match. We got Bayley, who defends versus Tamina Snuka, who got that opportunity by beating Sasha Banks, Bayley's best friend. We'll see how long that seems to last. Certainly some slow boil going on there. I got to admit, this match does not excite me. I like Bayley a lot. I really have enjoyed the heel character that she's really been pulling out. And her and Sasha have been very entertaining. And I realize that's what this match is. It's a backdrop for more of that story. But Tamina Snuka has just never clicked with me since she came up with the Usos probably 10 years ago now. I don't even know if it's been that long, but a long time ago. I don't know, Tom, are you more excited about Bayley and Tamina Snuka than I am?
I cannot say that I am. No. And the first comment you made that, this match is kind of like a backdrop to the real story. And the real story, and who knows when and how, because I've already been swerved by it a couple of times, is Bayley and Sasha. And they seem to be as thick as thieves still. I mean, you look at what happened, backstage between those two, Tamina and Lacey Evans last Friday on SmackDown, sets up a tag match for this coming weekend or this Friday before the show on Sunday. And obviously the whole idea is, that's going to just push, the issue heading into this match. And, again, Bayley can eat a pinfall on Friday, and then retain her title on Sunday. And again, we're still somewhere, some way, somehow on that path to Sasha versus Bayley. But clearly but it's not the traditional way for how we're going to get there.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I keep thinking towards SummerSlam because that's kind of the next big show. June, they don't officially have a pay-per-view announced for. I was looking at that yesterday. And I think July, is Extreme Rules. June last year was Stomping Grounds, but they haven't announced anything. Of course, with them not touring right now, and I don't foresee them touring anytime in the near future. They can add anything they want when they want since they run the building. So I don't know that means there won't be a June special or pay-per-view, whatever you want to call them. But Bayley Sasha feels like a SummerSlam match. We're starting to build our projected SummerSlam card here, which wasn't necessarily our point today, but Bayley and Sasha would be a great addition to that. I really thought they were going to do that at Mania. They didn't go that route. They're going to slow build that a little bit more, which I can't fault them for because far too often I feel like they rush through stories in 4 to 6 weeks. So I kind of like that they're building this slowly, and hopefully when the big blow up happens, it'll be more of that. But yeah, Tamina's a backdrop here. I suppose there's like a 2% chance that Sasha tries to interfere and it backfires and Tamina wins the belt. Again, 2%. Bayley's winning this match.
Yeah. Yep. So what I'm hearing though too from you is with that June calendar maybe not yet totally set up, you means you're free when they do announce the Vince McMahon Triple H Father's Day extravaganza.
Yeah, I should be able to. We can do a podcast previewing whatever in the world that would look like.
It's both of them going back and forth on the mic, but instead of being in the Performance Center, they're in Vince's backyard with a grill between them.
With social distance between themselves, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, Tom, I'm throwing something else in here that we didn't even talk about before the show. So, hey, curveball. It seems as though that the mysterious hacker is going to be revealed perhaps this Sunday. The coordinates in the latest video line up to the Performance Center, and there's a code that gets shown that's the date for this Sunday. I don't know if you've paid much attention to these videos as they've some of them aired on SmackDown, especially around the Otis and Mandy Rose, Sonya Deville, Dolph Ziggler situation. There was one that aired a couple of weeks ago that seemed to insinuate a tag team might be breaking up. they had Bailey and Sasha in that. So just saying, think that might be who they were hinting. Any thoughts on this hacker and who you think it might be, or who maybe it's more than one person?
Yeah, I definitely have no idea who this is, and it's actually kind of fallen off of my radar. I'll say this: I thought it peaked with the whole Otis and Mandy thing, and the Dolph Ziggler and Deville, Sonya Deville. But then I do, to your point, I do remember when it came back after WrestleMania, I was like, oh, this is a thing that's going to keep going. So I'm interested to see what that looks like. It's kind of weird. Like when I see the skits, like in this day and age, it seems a little outdated. Like it feels like it's like 1999 WWE. I mean, I feel like I'm gonna get the countdown for Y2J here in a second. But nonetheless, like it's intriguing, and this, I've not been like tuned into like anything behind the scenes. So like when I'm seeing stuff on Raw or SmackDown or NXT Live, I'm pretty open to like what I'm going to see. So that's been a good thing in a way, because I've been surprised. In this one, I hope, I'll take whatever I can get at this point. So I just hope they do it and do it well.
Yeah. My initial thought on it was, and I'll stay away from anything I've read on websites. And of course, they're guessing at this point too. The one thing that I think this has done, this situation that we're in the world of pro wrestling anyways, I think it's really kept a lot of those spoiler things out. When you only have like 5 people that are in the building that know what happened, it's going to be pretty easy to sniff that out if a spoiler does get out. So I think that has been a welcome thing. My first thought way back when this started was that blue circle of lights that seems really prominent in these hacker videos. Reminded me of Mustafa Ali's glove, and he's been out for a while. So now, if that's true, I would like that, because I like Mustafa Ali a lot, and I feel like they brought him up and then just kind of he had a little like mini push, and then he got hurt, and so Kofi Kingston ended up then having his run, and since Ali, I don't even know if he's returned. I think he had returned from that injury. They really haven't done a whole lot with him, so. If they give him a little bit of a character, as long as they don't go super cheesy with it, which they're bordering on. I agree with you. It is kind of 1990s. It made me think of Solomon Crowe when Sami Callihan was in NXT for a cup of coffee. And I had to laugh. I happened to see, I just read Impact results. I admit I don't see it. I don't have access on my Hulu package, but he did a hacker gimmick here recently in Impact. And I was like, okay, after you made fun of it when you were in NXT, now you found a way to make money with it in Impact. So go Sammy. But anyway, so I've wondered if Ali might be involved. They can go any which way they want, though, because again, I think the fun of this is, spoilers don't have to get out when there aren't 400 people that know what happened. So, or what is happening, I should say even. So I just wanted to throw that in there, since I did read this morning that it at least seems to be pointing that perhaps we'll get some resolution on that come Sunday. We're going to head into the big 4 matches at this point. Tom and I talked earlier. I do expect a Raw Tag Team title match to get added between the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders. It's not officially announced, so we don't have it on our lineup here. I will say, if it does get announced, I will not be shocked at all to see the Raiders win that match. Although they seem to be building towards the Profits getting their first win over the Viking Raiders. I am just thrilled, though, that the 1-week carpool karaoke they did with the Viking Raiders was a 1-week character change, and they've gone back to just letting them be badasses who beat up people.
Yeah, I'm going to chime in there, too, and just some of the Raw booking has just been odd to me. And I'm surprised because, and maybe I'm wrong, but I thought Paul Heyman had something to do with creative on Raw.
He's supposed to be the head of it.
Right. So like it's just seemed like, not that he's responsible for that segment, right? I don't want to and maybe he is, who knows. But the idea is like just some of the ways that wins and losses have traded recently, I've been kind of scratching my head at that as well. But who knows?
I'm with you there too. I see his fingerprints on certain things. I know he's a big fan of Drew McIntyre. We can talk about that in a minute. I know, when you see the younger talent, the Andrade, Austin Theory, and Angel Garza, faction, which I really like, by the way, and I'm sorry they're not on this card, so we can't talk about them more. Brendan Vink and Shane Thorne getting a win last week. Although the flip side of that being what I think you're kind of saying there on those wins and losses, they seem to be putting Cedric Alexander and Ricochet together as a team, yet they're about 50-50 on their wins and losses.
Yeah.
Why not give them a little bit of a push here at the start, get them going before you go ahead and beat them? I don't think this was – I don't mind Vink and Thorne getting a win. I just don't think getting over Alexander and Ricochet at this time was the thing I'd have done. Bring up what are they calling them? Everlast or Ever Ready or
Everrise?
Everrise. That's what they are.
Everlast, Ever Ready.
The Energizer Bunnies. I don't know. The 3.0 from Chikara. That's what I know them as. Everrise. Have them come in and let Vink and Thorne beat them. That certainly would be fine. Or any of the combinations of random Evolve talents that they've had doing jobs on the show. Leon Ruff, Denzel DeJournay. There's ways they could have done that. But anyways, we're digressing a little bit. Welcome to Tom and I Talking Wrestling. All right. Well, the first title match we want to talk about is the Universal title match. Braun Strowman, whose name I misspelled there. I'll fix that in a minute. Versus Bray Wyatt. There should be a W in that last name. Strowman, of course, wins the title at WrestleMania in a barn burner of a 4-minute match or 5-minute match with Goldberg. 18 spears and 14 power slams later, or whatever the count was. Strowman gets the win. Strowman getting the win because Roman Reigns pulled out of WrestleMania and has seemingly become persona non gratis with WWE right now. I mean, they don't mention him at all. Even in the Make-A-Wish thing that they just did, nothing about him. And just a quick aside, since it correlates into the Universal title match, Joe Anoa'i, however you say his last name, Roman Reigns, as a real human being, has had leukemia and had treatment twice now for leukemia. If he chose, or anybody chose, not to participate in a wrestling match because of the current pandemic situation going on, kudos to you and more power to you. And if he's being punished for that, then shame on the company. There's just absolutely no reason to be doing that. I realize WrestleMania is your biggest show of the year, but holy smokes, there are bigger things going on in the world than wrestling at this point. Well, this is a great escape for us to be able to talk about it. I mean, goodness gracious, if you're going to punish anybody, much less somebody who's had such a major medical situation, somebody needs their head screwed on, right? If that's what's really going on.
I can't add much more. I agree.
So that being said, I'm just going to fix Strowman here while we're talking, but Strowman gets the win, gets the title, because obviously they wanted to get it off of Goldberg since he had no more apparent dates from what I read. Hey, there we go. Spelling fixed. Tom and I were talking about this before we started recording. Bray Wyatt appears to be Sweater Vest Bray going into this match, not the Fiend. They haven't really mentioned the Fiend for when talking about this match at all. They've certainly done the Let Me In, and I really liked the build for this. The callbacks with the mask, although I thought it was a little hokey on that SmackDown when Strowman was on, was it with Bliss's talk show, A Moment of Bliss, I think, and he randomly looks over in the corner of the ring and goes, "Oh, did you give me a gift?" This president that's just sitting there. Maybe they could have found a better way to get the gift to him. I don't know, but have somebody bring it out or Bliss say, "Oh, this was left for you," or I don't know. Minor point, but it was just kind of like, we're talking about wrestling, and then, oh, look, shiny present. But I've liked this build, and I think there's a lot of history. I think this is a feud that could have legs if they want it to. Here I go with SummerSlam again. You could build the Strowman and the Fiend at SummerSlam. Maybe that's where the Fiend comes out. I really don't want them to put the belt on Bray here, partially because I think if you're going to put the belt back on that character, it should be the Fiend that wins it. I'm not sure you should do that anyways. I don't think that character needs the title. But more than that, Strowman has been somebody who probably 2 or 3 years ago should have been a world champion in WWE. They've flubbed it so many times with him in my mind that when you finally put the belt on him, don't pull it off him a month later. Don't have him just be a transitional champion from Goldberg back to Bray. I realized that Goldberg was a transitional champion and that the plan almost assuredly was that he would lose that title to Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Things change. Hey, we had a pandemic. Who knew? Take what you've got, though, and run with it with Braun Strowman. That guy should be an attraction. He doesn't necessarily need to be on every single show. He could be booked kind of like an Andre the Giant was back in the day, or maybe how the Great Khali and Giant Gonzalez. Well, no, Giant Gonzalez really shouldn't have been booked, but how the Great Khali could have been booked. Again, not regularly, but when he shows up as a surprise tag partner for somebody, holy crap, you got to deal with this guy now. Strowman could be awesome in that role. So I really hope they leave the belt on Braun. I think they will. But I wouldn't want to put any money that meant anything to me, which is a lot lower now in these days than times, on this match. But please let Braun keep the belt. What are you thinking, Tom?
Yeah, I don't see a title change. Again, I alluded to a little bit earlier. Probably a DQ is what I'd say here. But almost immediately as I say those words, I'm almost instantly regretting it because I could see that also being part of the story in a different match. I don't know. One interesting thing that we didn't talk about is where these matches are placed in comparison to where the Money in the Bank matches are placed. Just because you have to think that could be a factor in what happens in the match. I like your point, and I don't disagree that Braun should keep the title, let him build it. I do think there's a lot more to be done when you incorporate the Fiend, and that's the thing, even if it's not maybe a DQ finish and Braun wins and beats Bray, Bray has to cultivate the Fiend, bring the Fiend in to overcome this. He thought he had the power enough. He thought he did the mental mind games. He was wrong, but now here's this. So yeah, the build has been quite solid. I will admit. I do, just as an aside, the whole moment of bliss and the present last week, Braun was talking to Alexa and grabbed the shirt that she was like, look, it's my shirt, and literally wiped his face with it and handed it back to her. And I'm like, just the nastiness of that. I get you got you're a sweaty, monster among men, but isn't Alexa Bliss your friend? So she's showing you her new tag team shirt and you wipe your face and you hand it back to her, dude. Okay. So again, but maybe that's why the whole Braun Strowman character has had starts and stops and fumbles along the way, because he's just a different cat. He can be a different cat in a positive way, and he can also be a different cat in a not so positive way. And maybe that's some of that works against him. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, and that's one of those. Obviously, I'm sure he was told to do that. You have this guy who comes in as a monster. Comes in as part of the Wyatt family years ago, and he's the silent monster, and then he gets drafted to Raw, I think it was, in the draft, and that kind of splits him off. He went on that terror for a while, was just beating everybody. He was turning ambulances over. He was, breaking the Raw stage, I think, at one point. I don't remember everything they had him doing. They've even got a ambulance toy now you can get, with Braun Strowman of him flipping the thing. And then he goes and they have him booked to pick a 10-year-old kid as his tag team partner at WrestleMania. Granted, they won the belts, but and then you do these dopey things like have him wipe his shirt, you've got Alexa Bliss who's maybe even flirting with him a little bit, and he's so dopey that he can't, grasp onto that perhaps. And then, the booking with him is so weird. And he does seem like a different cat, even online. He had gotten into a thing with indie wrestlers when this all started, about how if, they didn't have money saved up, that was on them. And, Braun, you didn't work your way through the indies. So it's been nice having a WWE contract since day one for you. That being said, the booking on him is so weird. So they could have him kill Bray in 30 seconds, or he could lose the title. I really don't know. And I a DQ might, I can see where a DQ could work in this way, and especially if they do, and certainly they can if they pre-tape this match in any way, if they do some sort of a kind of, I fear to say hokey, Bray's getting beaten down and then the lights go out and then it's the Fiend in the ring. Yeah. kind of thing. They're playing with those cinematic touches, and I can't blame them. Try to do some different things. That's fine. I think some of them have worked, some of them haven't, but we'll see here. They're going to do some cinematic stuff with some other matches here that we'll get to in a minute. So, yeah, I think we're both in agreement though. Strowman should walk out the Universal Champ, and if not, they got some explaining to do. All right, WWE title match would come up next. Drew McIntyre wins the title at WrestleMania, beating Brock Lesnar in what I thought was an okay match. It didn't blow me away. I was hoping for a little bit more. Again, I think crowd reaction would have played a huge role in that, and it's just unfortunate that Drew didn't get that moment. McIntyre, I think, is a stud. I think they should build around Drew McIntyre. So I love that he's won the championship, and I hope that they continue to keep him strong because I think he's somebody and such a great story. I mean, go from the chosen one when he came in and he was, tearing things up, winning the Intercontinental title. Then they put him in 3-man band, which somehow the 2 out of the 3 men in 3-man band are now either champion or former WWE champions. So Heath Slater, don't worry about getting released. You got a title run in your future, buddy. It's all coming around. Maybe he'll come back jacked to the gills like Mahal and McIntyre have. But I've liked McIntyre since day one, since back when he was the chosen one by Vince McMahon. I've been a McIntyre fan. Loved his run through Impact and Evolve and the Indies when he was gone for a while. I thought he did a great job reinventing himself. Thought he was great in NXT as well. And when they brought him up, they've been a little start and stop with him, which is just their thing. They can't seem to get out of their own way with start and stop pushes with guys. But he's finally the champ. And, of course, Seth Rollins. Look, I know Seth can get a little much to bear when it comes to Twitter. He is definitely the WWE cheerleader and fanboy when it comes to that. But who can blame the guy? I mean, he's been put in a position where he's one of their top guys. I've been a Rollins fan since the Age of the Fall was kind of where I was first introduced to Tyler Black back in the day when you and I were both, I believe you were there, right? At the Age of the Fall debut?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I was pretty sure we were sitting together for that. So at the debut of the Age of the Fall, that's when I first was introduced to Tyler Black, now Seth Rollins. Been a fan there too. I'm looking forward to this match. These are 2 of the best going, I think, in the world today. There seems to be, to me, some underlying tension right now starting to simmer with Murphy and Seth Rollins from Monday night. Murphy made a comment about that someday he'll be better than Rollins, and Rollins knows that. And also that something around the line, and I'm going to have the wording a little messed up, but he believes that Rollins thinks he can beat McIntyre on Sunday, but Murphy knew he could beat McIntyre on Monday. And I thought that wording was interesting. So I could see a botched interference kind of thing here. I know we talked about botched interference a few times now, it seems like, but and I hope they don't overbook it with that, a bunch of matches that have that happen. But I could see Murphy try to get involved and end up, messing it up somehow. I hope they don't turn that into Murphy then becoming the comedy foil, who always screws everything up. Because I think Murphy has a huge upside as well. I wish they'd put his first name back on him. I don't know why everybody has to have a single name. But Murphy he is. So I definitely see Murphy getting involved somewhere here. It's too bad that one of the authors of Pain, Tom, with you not reading a lot of website news, I don't know if you realized that one of them is out injured again. A torn bicep again, I think, is what I read. So unfortunately, that's why they haven't been around, which is too bad because I really enjoyed those guys as well. I was liking the whole Monday Night Messiah group that didn't ever really get a name. But I like Rollins. I like his I'm okay with his new character. He's definitely gone down a darker path than I think we've ever seen from Seth Rollins, or a different way of being dark. He was always kind of the arrogant, cocky heel when he was part of the Authority in the past. And now it's just a little more darker tone, which I've always liked those characters. But all that being said, again, much like Braun Strowman, don't put the belt on Drew McIntyre for only a month. That would be absolutely stupid. I don't know if Rollins is the one eventually to win that title from him. We talk Money in the Bank. Maybe we'll get into that. But I like McIntyre to win this match.
Yeah, I also do. I actually think this match on paper, unless they potentially add a Raw Tag Team title match with the Profits and the Viking Raiders, this match is probably the on paper best like potential for a high quality match. You know, I think back to WrestleMania, I think back to Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins and how that was one of the standout matches that night or over the 2 nights. And then to your point about Drew McIntyre, like great title win, had energy, but wow, it should have been so much more for him and so much more for the moments, and it wasn't. So he's incredibly capable, as you mentioned. He's got tremendous history. He's rebuilt himself. He's remodeled himself, and he definitely deserves to be right where he is. I hope it's not a one and done between he and Rollins. At the same time, too, though, I think that it could be something that transitions for both guys, and then they could resume this later this calendar year. But I don't want to think too deep into that right now. Yeah, I do think that it's going to be just again a great match. I am interested by Rollins' statements recently, and again, I'm not going to quote it probably verbatim, but just like that the whole mission of him going after McIntyre or going for the title is that it's more than that to Rollins. So what does that mean? Right. And so not knowing about the AOP's injuries, and not knowing who is comfortable working and showing up at Raw and who they're choosing to bring in, not choose to bring in. I thought that if they were healthy, not knowing that they weren't, at the end of Raw on Monday, like having Rollins get the true upper hand and like hurting McIntyre or leaving him laying would have made me that much like thirstier for this match and the revenge that McIntyre can get. I think he still needs to get revenge. He didn't leave Rollins laying, and he wasn't left laying either. But how that plays out and what other elements might come to be it Murphy, be it another disciple that shows up out of the blue, maybe, I don't know. I'm excited to watch it play out.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think strictly in-ring work, and story too, but in-ring work, this has the highest probability of being the best match. The four-way tag should be good. There's nobody bad in that four-way tag. They can turn into a little bit of clusters at times just because you got so many people. The SmackDown Women's match will be what it is. It doesn't look like Becky Lynch is going to be on this show. They've already advertised her for Monday, confronting whoever wins Money in the Bank, so it doesn't look like she's going to be around. Yeah, I agree. This, and we'll get into Money in the Bank matches in a minute, but those aren't in-ring matches ever to begin with. And this year, ooh doggy, they're not. So yeah, I think this is going to be a really good match. I think it's going to be interesting. I agree with you on the placement of these, and we'll talk about this a little bit when we get to Money in the Bank matches. But part of me thinks the Money in the Bank winners will close the show. Winner or winners, maybe one of the matches ends early and one, I don't know, since they're happening at the same time. I don't know exactly how that's going to play out. If it's a straight match that finishes the show, and it's not the Money in the Bank matches, I think this is the one. I don't think you end with Strowman and Bray, as much as I'd like that to, that they're worthy of it. I think there's a story there that you can do something funky and have this be the one that ends. And I think, honestly, if you look at your two champions right now, we're both saying both of them should keep the title. If you're going to build around one of them as the guy in WWE, I think it's Drew McIntyre over Braun Strowman.
Yep, I agree.
So, if you're going to have a picture of somebody standing there with the belt at the end of the show, I think that's Drew. And that just makes sense to me as the way to go. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I do hope they rebuild. I hope they don't just go and split Murphy off already. And then just leave Seth kind of on his own. I liked him I'm a faction guy. I like groups in wrestling. And I know you are too, Tom. And so to have that group built and with AOP being injured, I understand. I still think you could have the uninjured member of AOP be a bodyguard and still, maybe it doesn't work as much, but he can still wreck some stuff. So
he's a big guy.
He's a big dude, right? And I can't remember now. I want to say, if it was Razor who was hurt last time, then it's Akam this time. And if it was Akam last time, it's Razor. It's the other guy. But whichever guy isn't hurt right now, I wish he'd still be there. But they've chosen not to. But I'd like to see Rollins have some disciples. It's got a little bit of a straight edge society cult vibe to it, albeit in a very different vein because it's this darker Messiah character, not, I'm better than you in CM Punk's world. But I kind of like it. I think having some disciples, as he's called them, following him and doing his bidding would be good. So maybe this can be the start to that. Maybe somebody comes back or shows up and tries to help him, much like Murphy did when he joined a couple of months back. So that'll be interesting to see play out. All right. Well, we're going to take these Money in the Bank matches separately, even though WWE has announced in their infinite wisdom that they are going to happen simultaneously. Tom and I talked a little bit before the show. I have this fear, and I hope I'm wrong, but I have this fear that they're going to start the matches early in the show and then have in between, we'll see all the other 5 matches, there are 4 matches, that are happening, and any others they might add, whether that's the Raw tag titles or some other, maybe Andrade does get a match with, well, it shouldn't be Apollo Crews if he was out of this match because he was hurt, but Andrade gets a match or something. I don't know. But my fear is that we're going to keep cutting back to 5 or 10 minute segments, much like the backlot brawl at WrestleMania 12 with Roddy Piper and Goldust, or other fill in your blank on cinematic things here. Let's talk about the cinematic thing maybe just for a minute. So at WrestleMania, we had 2 matches like that. We had the Boneyard match and we had the Firefly Funhouse match. So I personally loved the Firefly Funhouse match. The Boneyard match was okay for me. Other people have loved that one a lot more. The cinematic stuff in and of itself, I can take or leave. I don't get broken Matt Hardy, and I know we're not talking AEW and Impact right now, or AEW for now.
Or all
the Hardy
leagues.
compound. What's that?
I said, or all the leagues, all the promotions.
You're right. I don't get the broken thing. Damascus, and he's this entity and whatever, and it doesn't do it for me. But that's a whole nother podcast that we could do talking about AEW sometime. So I wasn't sure on the cinematic stuff how I'd like it. The Firefly Funhouse, like I said, I found it highly entertaining. The Boneyard match was good, and if you're going to use The Undertaker, it was probably a good way to do it, because he did look better in that than he has in any live match in quite some time. But The Undertaker's, I don't know, over 50, I think, at this point. And we'll see. I know the 5-part documentary is coming up. Again, here I go plugging the WWE Network, but the Last Ride documentary starts on Sunday. Right, exactly. See if Vince wants to pass out some sponsorship dollars now that he's not paying all those guys. So maybe they're building towards him really being done at some point. But they're going to do the cinematic thing, and it's climbing the corporate ladder. The briefcases are being suspended above WWE headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut, and the stars are going to start on the ground floor and work their way up through what I believe is 5 floors of the. Now, why wouldn't you just take the elevator to the 5th floor and not worry about floors 2, 3, and 4? But that's just my thought. I think
there are more than 5 floors in that building, though. Yes? No?
I read somewhere somebody said it was 5 in the roof.
Okay.
But I don't know that they're right either. It looks bigger.
That was my thought. So
it looks bigger. So however many floors that is, like I said, I just take the elevator to the top, find the roof access, go get that contract, be done. But let's start with the women's match. And Tom, I don't know, do we want to take these competitor by competitor or talk about it as a whole? What are you kind of feeling?
Yeah, I'm okay talking about it as a whole. I know one of the things we chatted about beforehand was the fact that there's only 6 competitors in each match, and in years past there's been, I think, 8 or perhaps even 9. So that's a little interesting. But I think in that terms of, since it's going to be edited, cinematically enhanced, that not having too many characters on screen, especially now that you're going to have 6 females and 6 males, probably makes that a little bit easier to put into the format that whatever we end up getting on Sunday looks like. For me, the women's match, very heavy on the Raw side. It really seems like there's some really connected storytelling or interwoven stuff with those competitors. I don't feel that much. Actually, I don't feel that at all about the ladies from SmackDown that are involved. There's definitely been a lot more intensity and intentionality about the ladies from Raw being in the mix. And again, since we already talked about the whole, like, I think we have some mutual understanding or agreement that Sasha Banks and Bayley is kind of where the SmackDown title path will eventually get to. You can't, I don't think, look at this match and not choose a Raw competitor to win. But then it becomes who? Because I think all three are really worthy. And I have some more thoughts, but I'd love to hear your thoughts too, and maybe we can bounce around.
Yeah, this match, I totally agree with you. You've got three, stars from the Raw side who have all been built really well over the last number of years. And in Shayna's case, just since she's been brought up, she had the weird bite thing night one, but then, they've kept her kind of as this cage fighter, tear up everybody. And I fear WWE tipped their hand a little bit too by saying that Becky Lynch was coming to confront the Money in the Bank winner, because the way they've been saying it, now they can change it on the fly and pretend like they never said this. It wouldn't be the first time they've ever done that. But the way they've been saying it is the winner gets a contract to face their brand's champion anytime in the next year, which is a change in wording from years past. And I don't know that on one hand, I like that because I don't like a lot of crossover. I think keeping Raw and SmackDown separate makes a lot of sense, because otherwise it becomes the same people on the screen all the time. And when you've got a roster of 5,000 or whatever in the world they have, a lot of guys, if this was the time when you had the, it wasn't the superstar shakeup, but where three people could go from show to show every week. And it usually tended to be about the same three people. I don't think you'd see people like Andrade and Austin Theory and Angel Garza and Brendan Vink and Shane Thorne and even Ricochet and Cedric Alexander getting those opportunities. So I like to keep them separate. Did they tip their hand, though, by saying Becky Lynch is going to confront the winner? On one hand, maybe they did. On one hand, I think we're all picking Raw people for this match. Do I see Dana Brooke being Miss Money in the Bank? No. I think it's nice she got a win and got into the match. Thanks for coming. I don't think she's winning. Carmella is a former Miss Money in the Bank, so there's a story to be told there. But again, they've really not featured Carmella in quite a while, it seems like, unless it was around the 24/7 thing for a while with Truth. And Lacey Evans, again, start, stop, has kind of been involved in this Bayley and Sasha thing. Was a heel and then became a babyface overnight somehow, just stopped being as mean. I don't know what that was all about.
She woke up and her daughter was like, "Mom, I don't like what you're doing on TV."
Right. And nothing wrong with Evans. I think Evans probably came to the main roster a little too soon, so she's been learning on the job. But then you've got Asuka. Asuka probably is the MVP of these empty arena shows. Her promos where she's just screaming and yelling about everything, I'm cracking up. I don't have a clue what she's yelling about until she yells things like "not VIP" or whatever. Like this past Monday, she's been great and she's awesome in the ring. So if this is a beginning of a re-push for Asuka, oh man, I would love that. They killed her off, I think, with having her lose to Charlotte a couple of years ago, and then never fully have gotten back behind her, it feels like. She's awesome in the ring, and this personality she's showing, even if you don't have a clue what she's talking about, she's getting a point across while she does it, which I think has been really cool. She was yelling something on Monday night about Kyrie, and I think it was because Nia Jax had beaten Kyrie Sane to get into the match. I think that's why she was yelling Kyrie.
And I feel like she might have hurt her, whether it's legit or not legit. Like, I think like she was punishing her. So like Asuka feels like she has to atone for her partner.
Yeah, and that could be. There was that nasty powerbomb spot in the corner. And there's video out there where you can hear what appears to be Kyrie saying, "I'm not set," right before she gets launched and about decapitated. Nia Jax, just move on to her. Nia's got a history of potatoing people. And so now we're going to put her in a match with a ladder and on top of a roof. Maybe that's part of why they pre-recorded some of this, so that if anybody actually gets thrown off, they can edit that out. But but Jax has been, she's always been presented as a threat. And Baszler has been presented as a huge threat. I I go back and forth on whether I like how they ended the Becky and Baszler match at Mania. On one hand, I didn't like Baszler losing. I thought her winning would be the way to go. They did the fluky kind of finish, the kick off the turnbuckle thing out of the clutch. So, okay. At least they didn't have Becky just beat her clean and wipe her out, i.e. Charlotte and Asuka a couple of years ago. I definitely see the winner coming from the Raw side. I agree with you. I think a valid argument can be made for all of them. I think Baszler makes the most sense because I think there could still be legs to Baszler and Lynch. And I mean, if Ronda Rousey ever wants to come back, and whether her comments lately were work, shoot, whatever, that's just who Rousey is. She's gonna, spout off at the mouth. Rousey and Lynch should be a one-on-one match, probably at a WrestleMania, if Rousey ever wants to come back, based on the whole, Rousey had her shoulder up a year ago, all of that kind of stuff. So anything you can get out of Baszler and Lynch that helps build you towards that, if you're ever going to get there, and I think that's really up to Ronda Rousey if they're ever going to get there, works for me. And Baszler's a fresh face. So to me, if I had to rank people in like my preference order, Baszler would be 1, Asuka would be 2. And then there's probably a gap, frankly, in my hopes after those two. Jack's probably 3, and then pick a SmackDown girl. And that says more to their booking of the SmackDown women's division, unfortunately, than anything against Lacey Evans, Carmella, or Dana Brooke. They all work hard. They're all trying, and they're just not giving them a whole lot because they've kind of got things focused on Bayley and Sasha, and can't figure out how to do more than one female story at a time for whatever reason. But I'm going to go Baszler on this one.
Yeah, I'll agree. That would have been my pick from the start too. The way I see this is there's definite legs left to Becky and Shayna. I was not disappointed by the way the match ended at WrestleMania, nor the outcome. Now, again, disappointed and surprised are two different things. I thought that, like, in the broad scheme of WWE, wins and losses, unfortunately, tend to not really matter 2 months after they've occurred. Sometimes they do call back to them.
Sometimes 2 weeks after they've occurred.
But there you go, right? So I throw out that statement kind of arbitrarily based on what we've seen before and how things happen. But in my mind, as I think about this match, as I think about the future, the idea of the bone collector, if you want to call her that, Shayna Baszler, like snapping limbs and doing whatever. I mean, because it's kind of tapered off in the last couple weeks as they've shifted the focus with Nia Jax and Asuka being involved. She's been brutal, right? So like having the story of her having the briefcase and knowing that Becky could have a tough match or get attacked or whatever, and then here comes Shayna and she stomps on her arm, and then she cashes in, and then she wins. Like that's good for all involved. I don't think Becky would have lost anything losing at Mania, but I don't know that she would. We would have probably seen her less than we've seen her now, and we've seen her a lot less. So go figure. And I don't know what they would have done with the women's title as it pertains to this coming show on Sunday. I do think that we're going to be set up for a Nia Jax and Asuka, like kind of a singles feud coming out of this. So I see something happening with them that either one eliminates the other or vice versa together. And Shayna knocks Carmella off the ladder to claim the briefcase. But again, I just go back to I really like the idea. And if I see it happen on Sunday, the idea of Shayna being Miss Money in the Bank and using that kind of as like that psychological, like in the back of my mind, in the back of your mind, Becky Lynch, I've got this, right? So you'll never know when, you'll never know how, but it will be me, and I'll do what I should have done at WrestleMania, and I'll take the title from you.
Yeah, I agree that just the way you laid it out makes a ton of sense. I always like, and it doesn't have to happen every year, but I like when the Money in the Bank, it's always a threat, whoever has it, because of the rules behind it. But like when Lesnar had it last year, was it last year? Lesnar won it, I think.
Yeah.
There was the threat of, oh my God, at any moment, and it's probably not going to be an opportune moment, you might have to face Brock Lesnar. And I think Shayna has some of that same fear behind her character of, when are you going to have to face this world beater, this person who, you got her, with a little bit of a fluky win at Mania, but man, she's coming for you, and she can pick the time and place, and she's in control now. And I think Shayna can play that up really well too. So I agree with you. Having Asuka just scream "Money in the Bank" all the time while carrying around the case would be fun, but or now, I don't know. But the men's Money in the Bank match, a little bit different in this case, in that I don't feel like there's quite the disparity between brands, and these are a little mixed up the way I listed them. They're not 3 and 3. Sorry for that. But we got Rey Mysterio, Aleister Black, Daniel Bryan, King Corbin, Otis, and then just on Monday night, AJ Styles winning the last spot after Apollo Crews was injured. It sounds like it's a storyline injury, which is good. And I hope that means they're still going to do something with Apollo. I was thrilled when Apollo Crews originally was in this match, because I've been a fan of his since Uhaa Nation days back in Dragon Gate USA, when we saw him back in Chicago a whole lot longer ago than the last time we did a Two Spot Monkeys. But I've been a Crews fan long time, and think he's been criminally underused. So that being said, just a quick aside, I hope there's bigger things in play for Crews. Crews with MVP would make a lot of sense to me. If MVP, he seems to be hanging around. It almost seems like he's going to become maybe a manager. I don't know, the way he was pumping up Vink and Thorne. Crews led by MVP could be a lot of fun. If MVP is going to put a little stable together, I don't know, something could be fun. But Styles came back and won the last chance gauntlet on Monday night, which I think actually was an interesting storyline twist, in that he had the gauntlet won in at Blood Money, or I'm sorry, Crown Jewel, back in Saudi Arabia, and sorry, said that out loud. There goes our WWE Network sponsorship. But before the Undertaker showed up and took that from him for the World Cup or whatever it was that they had there. Styles coming back and winning this gauntlet, kind of a little bit of callback to that. They didn't play that up too much. To me, you've got 5 guys in this match who, in a way or another, I could see winning it. I love Otis. I got to say that right off the bat. I love the character. I think there's money in Otis down the road. I don't know that he's world champion down the road, but as a U.S. champion or definitely as a tag champ, if they want to keep Tucker with him, I think there's legs with Otis. But Otis's Money in the Bank would be fun, but I think you can do a lot more with the other guys. That's my initial thoughts, though. What do you think, just as you look through those 6 names there, Tom?
Yeah, well, so one of the things that jumps out, I love all the names. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch this, and again, the element of whatever they do cinematically. Like, I can't wait to see Otis in the Titan Towers gym, because I know that's going to come, right? Like, it's got to happen. And who ends up in Vince McMahon's office with that big dinosaur skull? It's got to happen too. Like, does that not scream for King Corbin to somehow, some way, exercise his royal, powers or his royal authority to end up in Vince's office? Who knows? But this is a match that I believe truly could easily have 2 to 3 more men involved. And again, then there would be a little bit of discrepancy between the men's match and the women's match. But like, give me Cesaro or Shinsuke on the SmackDown side. I don't know why or how or what is the reason for the whole Apollo not being in it, but give me Apollo as well. Give me one of those 2 guys from SmackDown and give me Apollo, and this match just goes to another level. So not to say that it's wishful and things I would love to see. Still very thankful for this match. Still really excited. I agree with your assessment, and I'll add one more name to that list. In terms of people that I just don't think have a shot, Otis, of course, character-wise and personality-wise, and what he brings in the ring and how that connects. Love it. Want to see more of it. hope it continues to develop. But also Rey Mysterio, I feel like again he brings credibility to the match, but I just don't know that this is the path I see or would see Rey on at this point. Like I still want closure to him and Andrade, and I feel like we don't have that or haven't had that yet. So I'd love to see that happen. Give me Rey, Apollo, and somebody else versus Andrade, Austin Theory, and Angel Garza. Humberto Carrillo. Throw Humberto Carrillo in there, and we got another great 6-man. You know what? Here it is. June pay-per-view, WWE Trios Tournament. I just gave you that we've been building it the whole night, and now there it is. The light bulb has finally gone to full exposure. So I digress though. So as I think further just about this match, I'm very solid. Like if you said, hey, I need you to wager some money on the women's Money in the Bank, I would wager a lot more money on the outcome of Shayna winning than I would any man in this match. And there's a little bit of a reason as to why. One, there's that belief, true or not true, that Raw is the more focused on brand, regardless of the fact that SmackDown has the Fox contract. It'd be easy just to say 2 Raw competitors are winning. Or is it, hey, we have to kind of have some balanced booking because the Raw woman won. Do we have to give it to a SmackDown guy? And then does that mean it's King Corbin, previous Money in the Bank winner, Daniel Bryan, previous Money in the Bank winner? Could tell a lot of good stories there. I also love him and I can't wait to see more of him. But I think the Aleister Black story, there's so much more to be told before I want him in a title match, specifically against Drew McIntyre. I mean, I would love to watch that match in general, and I'm sure it's happened before prior to their WWE time, but not right now. And then the last comment I'll make, and I'll throw it back to you, is just I'm very surprised about AJ Styles being in that gauntlet with the way some of the social media was out there with WWE. I kind of thought in the back of my mind it was going to be Jinder Mahal's spot to get. And so the fact that he wasn't in the gauntlet at all, and which makes sense. Again, we're kind of cooking guys slow, so cooking him in the slow cooker for whatever comes out. They've already kind of hinted at it being a dream match between he and McIntyre based on their history and their championship lineage. So it may feel forced had he won the gauntlet. But even nonetheless, like you had AJ Styles come right out and say, I'm not a zombie, I'm not an apparition, I'm not a ghost. I was buried alive, but here I am and I'm back and I'm coming for Money in the Bank. So from an athleticism and like entertaining, like in ring, in Titan Towers battle, AJ is going to bring a lot to the table.
No, I totally agree. And you're right on Ray. I don't, if I had to rank them 1 through 6, Otis would be 6, Ray would be 5 on my, probability of winning the match. And not a high probability at all on that. And I agree, as you were saying it, I really hadn't thought about it. The way they've been playing this up and again, they can change this, but it has to be that the person who wins is going to get a shot at their brand champion. Then you would think they wouldn't want to keep them both on Raw. They would want one on each show, just for the storyline perspective of it, which does lead to more of a Daniel Bryan or King Corbin win, because again, we just don't see Otis again be entertaining as heck, but there's a whole different story we're doing with Otis there. There's really got nothing to do with Braun Strowman or the world title or the Universal title. So no need there. I agree with you on Aleister Black. I'm a huge Aleister Black fan. Really like that they seem to be again getting behind him. They got behind him. He was in the tag team with Ricochet a year ago. Then, took a little time. Seems like they're getting back there, realizing what they've got in Aleister Black. And I agree with you. Him and Drew would be a heck of a match. They would beat the tar out of each other. But not yet. I agree. And right now, both on the babyface side of things too. So I think that will be a better one when there can be a little more heated issue between the two of them. Let that build over some time. That could, a year or two from now, that could be a WrestleMania main event in my eyes. I think both guys are that good. AJ, I came in kind of thinking AJ Styles, to be honest with you, but then you mentioning do they want them both on Raw? That throws it for me a little bit, because I thought, boy, that'd get AJ right back to being in the top mix. He doesn't have Anderson and Gallows with him anymore, with them being released. So kind of a reset on the AJ Styles character a little bit. I thought it was interesting he wore the OC T-shirt on Monday night.
And tights. Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't. Maybe he needs time to get more gear made. But AJ's had plenty of gear over the years, so I think he's got something he could have worn that didn't say the OC. Interesting that I believe the way that I understand things, this past Monday night's Raw was actually taped a week ago. They're doing two at a time. One of them kind of live to tape for that day, and then the next one either on the next day or later that night. And so I think that was taped a week ago. So they let him work in the OC stuff. I mean, it's a taped show. It's not like he walked out live and nobody had seen him. It was interesting. I don't know. Now Anderson and Gallows might get a call back too if they don't sign somewhere else in the meantime. Who knows? But that's a whole different thing. We could do a whole podcast probably on the 30 people that lost their jobs a couple of weeks ago. But so Styles was where I was leaning, but boy, then it becomes, you're right, on the SmackDown side, if we rule out Otis, and I think we should, Daniel Bryan or King Corbin. Corbin is probably the best heel in the business as far as getting people to hate him. He has that down. There's no question. They have seemed to shift. Last week, it seems like Cesaro and Shinsuke maybe are shifting over to being with Corbin. There's a lot of things out there about what does that mean for Sami Zayn. He's the current Intercontinental Champion. If he's, maybe choosing not to work right now, which apparently, unless your name is Roman Reigns, they're giving everybody that option and saying it won't be held against you. And then if Sami wants to do that, that's fine. It was a little awkward transition, but I realized that maybe they're just in an awkward spot. Corbin probably, I think as King especially, should have some lackeys. I wish they weren't Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura, because those two guys are on that criminally underused list that I talk about, Apollo Crews and other guys as well. Those guys, frankly, should be in a match like this, and we should be talking about whether they've got a shot to win Money in the Bank and become one of the top guys. Sadly, that's not what we're talking about. They might show up. They may get involved. I think that's one thing we have to look at, is because this is being cinematic and whatever, much like the OC were in the Boneyard match. Could we see Cesaro, or could we see Shinsuke? Could we see Tucker? Maybe Tucker's working out in the weight room when Otis breaks in the middle of the Money in the Bank match. Do they do a thing where they run into one of the showers and Mandy Rose is there with a towel around her? Or, I don't know. And on the women's side too, there's, is Kairi Sane around? Does she get involved with Nia Jax? So all of those things, I'm digressing a little bit because I don't want to make a pick here because I can't. But Braun Strowman is the Universal Champ, and we both think that Braun Strowman should be the Universal Champ when this match ends, or when this night ends, or at least when his match ends. So King Corbin makes the most sense. I don't love the idea. Corbin's one of the best is the best heel in the business as far as getting people to hate him, but I still don't want him at the top of the card for some reason. And I don't quite know why that is, but Corbin makes the most sense. And I think a lot of, you're not going to get the threat that you get with Shayna Baszler. He could be super annoying having that Money in the Bank, and when am I going to use it, and all of those kinds of things. Corbin's one who I think, because of his tendency to get people to hate him, is hurting a little bit without the crowds, because he doesn't have the crowd reaction of everybody hating him so much. So, but I don't see them going back down the Daniel Bryan road as much as I would love them to. So I'm going to go Corbin and plug my nose while I say it.
Don't plug your nose. Be happy and be proud, because I think it's the right choice. And the one thing that I think that oftentimes people, and maybe you and I are even wrestling with this now, is we're thinking in the present time. So we're thinking of Corbin wins, Daniel Bryan wins. It's Strowman that they're going to be going for. Not necessarily the case, right? They have a year from when they win this case to cash it in. So to your point, hopefully wrestling events with crowds in some form or fashion, a year from now, 10 months from now, 8 months from now, come back and the vitriol that would be for Corbin being able to play off the emotions of a live crowd while being the briefcase holder and not knowing when you're going to have him cash it in. I mean, the Universal Champion could have changed hands 2 or 3 times by then. Who knows? I think that's the smart play. But whether it happens or not, I'll say I'm 65-35 Corbin. I do think Daniel Bryan is reliable, but again, with Daniel Bryan's history of just his medical history, and I'll be shocked. He's the one talent of all of the talents that has continued to work that I'm really surprised by, only because he's got a pregnant wife, if I'm not mistaken. If he's not had the baby yet, I don't know how what. Say it again.
I think still pregnant. Yeah, okay. I don't think they've had a baby.
Right. So baby on the way, young child at home, traveling clearly across the country to get to Florida for whatever taping schedule they're on. That's a surprising one for me, the fact that he's in that environment. But again, he's also probably a pretty smart guy too. So having him with the briefcase in the background for how long. The other part too, just about the whole like why I lean towards Corbin, is Daniel Bryan made it very specific, and he's a smart enough guy to do this, be it the writers influencing it or not, that he called out that Corbin was one of 4 people to lose when he cashed in last time. So I could very easily see Corbin having like a vindication mission, whether it bears itself out or not, but being on a vindication mission with securing the briefcase for a second time, and this time not failing in its quest to cash in and win the title. And again, I think he's someone that when you mentioned the Miz earlier, I didn't want to take away from that match, but I don't see Miz the same way that you see him. I don't really care if Miz ever gets higher than where he's at on the card, or if he kind of fluctuates in that like U.S. title, Intercontinental title, tag team space for the rest of his career. He just doesn't do it for me. On the flip side, though, Baron Corbin does. So I'd love to see Baron Corbin in that main event role. And then one more step in the future storytelling. Obviously, there's still an issue with Elias, despite the fact that they had what you could have perceived to be a blow off at WrestleMania. It didn't end. So having Elias chase the briefcase and or Corbin throughout the summer into the fall is one more way they could potentially go. So I'll go Baszler and Corbin as well. I can't believe we didn't talk about that ahead of time when we both are in agreement.
I say it. I think we've been pretty much agreement across the board. I think you brought up a great point earlier, Tom, that it feels like right now they're continuing storylines, but they're not major twists and turns in the storylines that we might normally see, especially around Money in the Bank, and even WrestleMania. I thought WrestleMania was pretty paint by numbers. With a couple exceptions. Becky Lynch winning, I think, was a surprise to most. Charlotte winning, I think, was a surprise too to some people, myself included. Maybe there are reasons behind that. We haven't seen Rhea Ripley since then, so I know there's been some talk about work visas and that. I don't know if that's a thing with her, but if that led to any of that. But that being a whole other topic, for the most part, I felt like WrestleMania was, what we kind of thought was going to happen happened in most cases. And we seem to be in that. Sorry, I'm just beating my camera up here. We seem to be in that mode right now where they're keeping the status quo until they can get some sort of crowd together again. There's some talk I had seen that even later this month, they think maybe if people are seated 6 feet apart and all of that, I don't know. We'll see. That's another topic probably for another conversation too, whether that's a good idea or not. And I'm going to defer to people that are a lot smarter than me on some of those things. Coincidentally, none of whom work for WWE. I'm going to go ahead with, CDC and folks like that. But the other thing I was thinking as you were saying that, talking about that match, Tom, is as much as there'd be the vitriol from the fans if, they come back with crowds of some sort down the road here when they come back, because we'll get back to wrestling with crowds at some point here in the future. Corbin holding that Money in the Bank, man, him walking out as the Universal Champion at that point too, if they decided to make the switch even before that happened, or maybe they do it on the first show with the crowd again, much like they did with Lesnar beating Kofi on the first Fox show. God, Corbin standing there with that Universal title over his shoulder. I mean, I could see things being thrown at the ring NWO style at that point. Not that he's a Hulk Hogan character. I am not saying that in any way, shape, or form. Please don't let him get that to his head. But yeah, he's got a level of hate that I think most people don't anymore. So it's hard to be a heel in this day and age. Everybody starts to like everybody when they start. The Fiend should be a heel. Goodness gracious. That character should not be getting cheers, but he does. That was the thing too. Just to play off of the flip side of the Shayna Baszler thing. If the Fiend ends up winning the Universal title at some point, there's the reverse threat in that case. Like, yeah, I've got this contract, but do I want to deal with that guy? I don't know. Could be interesting down the road. You're 100% right. We've seen Money in the Bank get cashed in the same night, but we've also seen people wait almost the full year. Look at Seth Rollins. When he cashed it in at WrestleMania, he'd had that thing darn near a year. It was the one at May or June the year before. And we've seen everything in between on that too, the next night and all sorts of things. So, Tom, any last thoughts on Money in the Bank or the setup?
Well, it's Mother's Day on Sunday, so unfortunately I won't be watching Money in the Bank live, even though I've been talking as if I'm going to be watching it on Sunday. I will be doing something at a social distance to celebrate my mom and, of course, celebrating my wife and the mother that she is to my 4 kids. So we've got actually some really good food plans, so I'm excited for that. Ideally, I'm going to wake up early on Monday and try to get Money in the Bank in. And I'll probably chunk it if I have to. The one nice thing I feel, and maybe I'm wrong, we'll see, is it just feels like in this current age, pay-per-views aren't the marathons they used to be. Now, granted, WrestleMania was 2 nights. I understand that. And if you add them both up, no one would have wanted to sit through that combined. That being said, I think it'll be quick and easy to digest. And again, if they don't add anything to the card, which I can't imagine we don't get 1 or 2 more things between now and Sunday. We're recording this on Wednesday. So I'm looking forward to it, and I am eager to see. I'd love to run this back and do this again with you next week. I'd love to talk about the outcome of Money in the Bank and maybe the Raw that follows for sure. And the other thing I'm thinking about is obviously AEW returns live tonight. And that's really exciting. I won't be watching that live because I'm going to be watching Survivor as a family, but I'll be DVRing AEW and then of course a big NXT show tonight. If schedule's online, I'd love to hook back up a week from now or within the next week and do a Money in the Bank recap. And if there's anything worthwhile, talk about live AEW and or a pretty stacked NXT card. I'd love to chat about that.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds good to me, and I agree. There's certainly things that are going to come out of Sunday. I think I will probably be watching live. Living where we do out in central Nebraska, we don't get a chance to get together with our family for Mother's Day because both of our moms are back in the Illinois and Wisconsin area. So haven't even thought about food for Sunday yet. So that's awesome that you're already looking ahead to that. I don't even know what dinner tonight is, man. So we'll figure that out at some point. But so I think I'm going to be watching it live. But yeah, absolutely. Let's connect on that. It'll be a good time. And you're right. AEW's coming back to live shows tonight. I didn't see any spoilers, and I read a fair number of the sites of the last numbers of weeks of shows. Again, small number of people around that actually knew what happened. So I was surprised by the TNT tournament results thus far. I shouldn't say surprised. I really thought we were going to Cody Dustin in the finals. So we'll see where that leads with Double or Nothing coming soon. But talk about AEW, talk about the big NXT show tonight, 2 title matches, and apparently the official, although he's been shown on screen, the official debut of Karrion Kross, the former Killer Kross, who I've got high hopes for in NXT. And Scarlett's coming along, so hey, nothing wrong with that. So Karrion Kross, big debut tonight, so lots to talk about. So yeah, we'll connect next week. And hey, for those of you that have stuck with us for the hour and almost 25 minutes that we have been recording here, We appreciate you guys. Thank you. Stay safe. Stay home. I don't mean to make a political comment, but stay home, people. And let's get through this. And as much as I enjoy doing these, and we're going to enjoy having some time to do these, we know that when life gets back to normal, this might not happen as much, but that'll be okay because it'll mean life is back to normal too. So, hey, folks, stay safe. Tom, any parting words?
I'm good to go. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Guys, you're the best. We'll see you in a week or so.